Now I want to introduce Justin Chenette, who is the youngest member of the Maine State Senate and is the chairperson of the Government Oversight Committee. Justin, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Senator Sanders, and thank you so much for elevating the issue of campaign finance reform on a national level. Just a reminder to everybody, this year marked the 10th anniversary of the horrible Supreme Court decision known as Citizens United, which really allowed a floodgate of campaign contributions from corporations and lobbyists to flood into our politics and particularly in our government. And I'd like to focus a little bit about how this is impacting Maine, and I'm sure it's impacting wherever you're listening in from. In particular, corporate lobbyists aren't contributing to legislators or lawmakers out of the charitable goodness of their hearts. They expect something in return for that investment. In particular, lobbyists use these contributions to gain access, to gain influence, and the most prized possession is a vote. And this vicious cycle of using money really as a bidding tool for legislative influence doesn't benefit the average Mainer. It's simply lining the pockets of those who can afford to hire a lobbyist. And the average person shouldn't need to hire a lobbyist to benefit their lives from a policy perspective. We as a government have to be the people's lobbyists and should be. And so having a government of, by, and for the people should be something that unites us, unites this country, regardless of political background or persuasion. We shouldn't just accept a political system of the lobbyist, by the corporation, and for the bottom line. People are demanding that we restore trust, transparency, and accountability in the system of government. And how we do that is pass comprehensive campaign finance reform. And here in Maine, we're not waiting around for Citizens United to be overturned. We're actually doing something about it. We're focusing in on the undue influence of lobbyists, specifically how their money is influencing public policy decision-making, the shady use of political action committees known as PACs, and the revolving door of former lawmakers becoming lobbyists. This is critical. And so we've been able to actually, with Democratic majorities in the House and the Senate and in the governorship, this is why it's so important to pay attention to all of these races, both on a national and local and state level. With Democratic majorities, we were able to pass a whole host of reforms that were critical, banning lobbyist contributions, joining just a handful of states to say to lobbyists, no, we don't want your money, whether we're talking about sitting lawmakers or legislative candidates. We've tried to close the revolving door of former lawmakers becoming lobbyists by saying, hey, look, former lawmakers, you have to wait at least a year before you can start corporate lobbying. Hello. And then let's eliminate PAC slush funds. No one should be benefiting off political contributions. So we did those three things with Democratic majorities at the State House. So let's not forget, I know we're all focused on the national level and we need to elect Joe Biden. Let's look up and down the ticket to make sure we're electing Democrats across the board, because real reforms have to happen. State houses are really the last measure, particularly when we're seeing a Supreme Court held hostage by conservatives. And we're seeing with the potential Supreme Court nominee that we really need to take it upon ourselves to not only pass comprehensive campaign finance reform, but really make sure that we're promoting progressive policies that actually benefit people at the end of the day. Because when we have a government that's fighting out on behalf of whether Maine people or the American people, and not of a corporation or lobbyist who simply writes the biggest checkbook, then we're actually going to be starting to talk about and solving real problems that are impacting real people's lives at the end of the day.
All right, Justin, very well said. You know what? I'm going to get back to you later, because I think the rest of the country, and many of them are watching this program, they are not familiar with what you have already accomplished in Maine in terms of campaign finance reform. So I want to pick up on that issue a little bit later on. Justin, I want to get back to you. We have, as I think most of the viewers know, a fairly corrupt political and election system. As we speak, billionaires are making enormous contributions to buy the candidates that they like. You correctly mentioned that we are now 10 years into one of the worst Supreme Court decisions ever rendered, Citizens United. But Maine has a history for many years now of allowing candidates to legislature and statewide office to have an alternative to hustling money from wealthy people. Can you briefly tell us what has gone on in Maine and how it is being utilized today?
Absolutely. Thanks, Senator Sanders, for bringing that up. So we have it's called the Clean Elections Program. So basically, if a candidate participates in this system, they collect X number of, we call them $5 contributions, meaning you can only collect exactly $5, not a penny more, not a penny less, from individuals just within your legislative district. And if you collect a certain number, then you'll qualify for public financing. But that means that you can't accept any monies from lobbyists, corporations, special interest groups. That's the only amount. It's sort of like Monopoly. It's sort of like that's the money that you can play with, and that's it. And that allows us to focus on having policy conversations, actually talking with voters and actually engaging, and not focused on having high stakes fundraisers, not talking to corporations or lobbyists. So we have a great system, but we absolutely still have more work to do because, as you know, PACs have infiltrated our politics. And so PACs are still a huge problem, even for states like Maine that have a clean elections program.
Justin, let me ask you this, and I think many of the viewers around the country would like to know, how many candidates take advantage of the system, of your clean election system?
Well, let's take the state Senate, for instance. As Senate President Jackson knows, a majority of our Senate candidates on both sides of the aisle actually participate in the clean election system, which is really great to see that. Obviously, we can always aim for 100%, particularly on the House side, but we have a great participation rate
from Democrats and Republicans.
From on the Senate side, Democrats and Republicans. I think on the House side, we gotta talk to our Republican colleagues a little bit, but I think the public is demanding that folks become clean elections candidates. So I think there's even pressure during campaign cycles that, why aren't you a clean elections candidate?
Well,
so
and I just want to mention here, as a former member of the House and the United States Senate, it is no great secret that here in Washington, Democrats and Republicans spend an enormous amount of time on the phone or at fundraising events hustling money from wealthy people. And instead of, as Justin mentioned, talking about the issues, debating the issues, they're out raising money. So I want to thank the people of Maine. And I know you can improve your system. We can always make all systems better. But thank you for being a model or an example of what other states can do to take big money out of politics.